This is something a little different, but we had a request for the GROL study slides, similar to our ham radio study slides. So I've created them. I've got element 1 completed, so I'm going to go ahead and voice over it. Hopefully element 3 will be done soon, and this is going to be based on the 2009 FCC commercial element 1. Subelement A, and there are multiple topics here, so I'm not going to cover them all. Multiple key topics in this slideshow, and here's some more. There are several topics. Usually every topic has about 6 questions, and I'll only read the question and the correct answer. I'm not sure how the GROL licensure is set up or the testing, so it's possible that the answers might switch, such as with ham radio. 1A1, what is the requirement of all marine transmitting apparatus used aboard United States vessels? Correct answer is A. Only equipment that has been certified by the FCC for Part 80 operations is authorized. 1A2 says what transmitting equipment is authorized for use by a station in the maritime services? B. Unless specifically accepted, only transmitters certified by the Federal Communications Commission for Part 80 operations. 1A3, small passenger vessels that sail 20 to 150 nautical miles from the nearest land must have what additional equipment? It's D, MF, HF, SSB transceiver. 1A4 says what equipment is programmed to initiate transmission of distress alerts and calls to individual stations? That's C, DSC controller. 1A5 says what is the minimum transmitter power level required by the FCC for a medium frequency transmitter aboard a compulsory fitted vessel? And that's B, at least 60 watts PEP. 1A6 says shipboard transmitters using F3E emission, which is FM voice, may not exceed what carrier power? That's D, 25 watts. 2A1 says what commercial radio operator license is required to operate a fixed tuned ship radar station with external controls? That's D. No radio operator authorization is required. 2A2, when is a marine radio operator permit or higher license required for aircraft communications? C, when operating on frequencies below 30 MHz not allocated exclusively to aeronautical mobile services. 2A3 says which of the following persons are ineligible to be issued a commercial radio operator license? That's A, individuals who are unable to send and receive correctly by telephone spoken messages in English. 2A4, what are the radio operator requirements of a passenger ship equipped with a GMDSS installation? D, 2 operators on board must hold a GMDSS radio operator license or a restricted GMDSS radio operator license, depending on the ship's operating areas. 2A5 says what is the minimum radio operator requirement for ships subject to the Great Lakes Radio Agreement? Answer is C, Marine Radio Operator Permit. 2A6, what is the requirement for every commercial operator on duty and in charge of a transmitting system? B, the original license or a photocopy must be posted or in the operator's personal possession and available for inspection. 3A1, radio watches for compulsory radio telephone stations will include the following? C, VHF Channel 16 continuous watch. 3A2, all compulsory equipment cargo ships, except those operating under GMDSS regulations or a VTS, while being navigated outside of a harbor or port, shall keep a continuous radio telephone watch on A, 2182 kilohertz and channel 16. A3. What channel must all compulsory non-GMDSS vessels monitor at all times in the open sea? D. Channel 16. 3A4. When a watch is required on 2182 kilohertz, at how many minutes past the hour must a 3-minute silent period be observed? Answer is A. 0 and 30. 3A5. What is true concerning a required watch on VHF channel 16? D. All of the choices are correct. So, it is compulsory at all times while at sea until further notice, unless the vessel is in a VTS system. B. When a vessel is in an A1C area and subject to the Bridge-to-Bridge Act, and in a VTS system, a watch is not required on channel 16, provided the vessel monitors channel 13 and VTS channel. And C, it is always compulsory in C areas A2, A3, and A4. 3A6, what are the mandatory DSC watchkeeping bands channels? That's B, 8 megahertz HF DSC, 1 other HF DSC, 2 megahertz MF DSC, and VHF channel 70. 4A1, who is required to make entries in a required service or maintenance log? B, the operator responsible for the station operation or maintenance. 4A2, who is responsible for the proper maintenance of station logs? That would be D, the station licensee and the radio operator in charge of the station. 4A3, where must ship station logs be kept during a voyage? A, at the principal radio telephone operating position. 4A4, what is the proper procedure for making a correction in the station log? C, the original person making the entry must strike out the error, initial the correction, and indicate the date of the correction. 4A5, how long should station logs be retained when there are entries relating to distress or disaster situations? B, for a period of 3 years from the last date of entry unless notified by the FCC. 4A6, how long should station logs be retained when there are no entries relating to distress or disaster situations? C, for a period of 2 years from the last date of entry. 5A1 says radio telephone stations required to keep logs of their transmissions must include, and that's all of the above. So it's the station date and time, the name of the operator on duty, and the station call signs with which communications took place. 5A2, which of the following is true? B, EPIRB tests are normally logged monthly. 5A3, where should the GMDSS radio log be kept on board ship? That's C, at the GMDSS operating position. 5A4, which of the following statements is true? And that's A, key letters or abbreviations may be used in GMDSS radio logbooks if their meaning is noted in the log. 5A5, which of the following log-keeping statements is true? And the answer is B, both A and C, which is entries related to pre-voyage, pre-departure, and daily tests are required, as well as a summary of all required distress communications heard and urgency communications affecting the station's own ship. Also, all safety communications other than VHF affecting the station's own ship must be logged. 5A6, which of the following statements concerning log entries is false? That's A, all safety communications received on VHF must be logged. 6A1, what regulations govern the use and operation of FCC licensed ship stations in international waters? Answer is B, Part 80 of the FCC rules plus the international radio regulations and agreements to which the United States is a party. 6A2, when may the operator of a ship radio station allow an unlicensed person to speak over the transmitter? C, when under the supervision of the licensed operator. 6A3, where do you make an application for inspection of a ship GMDSS radio station? C. To the engineer in charge of the FCC district office nearest to the proposed place of inspection. 6A4. Who has ultimate control of the service at the ship's radio station? A. The master of the ship. 6A5. Where must the principal radio telephone operating position be installed in a ship station? C. In the room or an adjoining room from which the ship is normally steered while at sea. 6A6. By international agreement, which ships must carry radio equipment for the safety of life at sea? D. Cargo ships of more than 300 gross tons and vessels carrying more than 12 passengers. 7B1. What traffic management service is operated by the U.S. Coast Guard in certain designated water areas to prevent ship collisions, groundings, and environmental harm? And that's B. Vessel Traffic Service, VTS. 7B2. What is a bridge-to-bridge station? D. A VHF radio station locating on the ship's navigational bridge or main control station that is used only for navigational communications. 7B3. When may a bridge-to-bridge transmission be more than 1 watt? A. When broadcasting a distress message and rounding a bend in a river or traveling in a blind spot. 7B4. When is it legal to transmit high power on channel 13? And the answer is all of the above. So when the failure of a vessel being called to respond in a blind situation such as rounding a bend in a river or during an emergency. 7B5. A ship station using VHF bridge-to-bridge channel 13 may be identified by name of the ship in lieu of the call sign. 7B6. The primary purpose of bridge-to-bridge communications is C. Navigational communications. 8B1. What is the best way for a radio operator to minimize or prevent interference to other stations? C. Determine that a frequency is not in use by monitoring the frequency before transmitting. 8B2. Under what circumstances may a coast station using a telephony transmit a general call to a group of vessels? B. When announcing or preceding the transmission of distress, urgency, safety, or other important messages. B3. Who determines when a ship station may transmit routine traffic destined for a coast or government station in the maritime mobile service? C. Ship stations must comply with instructions given by the coast or government station. B4. What is required of a ship station which has established initial contact with another station on 2182 kHz or channel 16? The stations must change to an authorized working frequency for the transmission of messages. B5. How does a coast station notify a ship that it has a message for the ship? D. The coast station may transmit at intervals lists of call signs in alphabetical order for which they have traffic. B6. What is the priority of communications? B. Distress, urgency, and safety. B1. Under what circumstances may a ship or aircraft station interfere with a public coast station? A. In cases of distress. 9B2. Ordinarily, how often would a station using a telephony emission identify? B. At the beginning and end of each transmission and at 15-minute intervals. 9B3. When using a SSB station on 2182 kHz or VHF FM on channel 16, all of these are correct. So preliminary call must not exceed 30 seconds. If a contact is not made, you must wait at least 2 minutes before repeating the call. And once the contact is established, you must switch to a working frequency. 9B4. What should a station operator do before making a transmission? A. Except for transmission of distress calls, determine that the frequency is not in use by monitoring the frequency before transmitting. 9B5. On what frequency should a ship normally call a coast station when using radio telephony emission? B. Calls should be initiated on the appropriate ship-to-shore working frequency of the coast station. 9B6. In the International Phonetic Alphabet, the letters E, M, and S are represented by the words C. Echo Mike Sierra. 10B1. What information must be included in a distress message? And that's all of the above. So the name of the vessel, the location, and the type of distress and specifics of help requested. 10B2. What is the highest priority communications from ships at sea? And that's C. Distress calls are highest, and then communications preceded by urgency, and then safety signals. 10B9 or 10B3. What is a distress communication? B. An internationally recognized communication indicating that the sender is threatened by grave and imminent danger and requests immediate assistance. 10B4. What is the order of priority of radio telephone communications in the maritime services? C. Distress calls and signals followed by communications preceded by urgency and safety signals and all other communications. 10B5. The radio telephone distress call and messages consists of all of the above. So A. Mayday spoken 3 times followed by the name of the vessel and the call sign in phonetics spoken 3 times. B. Particulars of its position, latitude and longitude, and other information that might facilitate rescue, such as length, color, type of vessel, and number of persons on board. And then C. The nature of the distress and type of assistance required. 10B6. What is distress traffic? A. All messages relative to the immediate assistance required by a ship, aircraft, or other vehicle threatened by grave or imminent danger, such as life and safety of persons on board or man overboard. 11B1. What is a typical urgency transmission? A. A request for medical assistance that does not rise to the level of a distress or critical weather transmission higher than safety. 11B2. What is the internationally recognized urgency signal? B. The words pan pan spoken 3 times before the urgency call. 11B3. What is a safety transmission? A. A communications transmission which indicates that the station is preparing to transmit an important navigation or weather warning. 11B4. The urgency signal concerning the safety of a ship, aircraft, or person shall be sent only on the authority of C. Either the master of the ship or the person responsible for mobile station. 11B5. The urgency signal has lower priority than B. Distress. 11B6. What safety signal call word is spoken 3 times followed by the station call letters spoken 3 times to announce a storm warning, danger to navigation, or special aid to navigation? And that's D. Securite. I believe I pronounced that right. I'm not familiar with this. 12B1. What is the fundamental concept of the GMDSS? D. It is intended to automate and improve emergency communications in the maritime industry. 12B2. What is the primary purpose of the GMDSS? Or the primary purpose of the GMDSS is to C. Automate and improve emergency communications for the world's shipping industry. 12B3. What is the basic concept of GMDSS? All of the above. So shoreside authorities and vessels can assist in a coordinated search and rescue operation with minimum delay. Search and rescue authorities ashore can be alerted to a distress situation, and shipping in the immediate vicinity of the ship in distress will be rapidly alerted. 12B4. GMDSS is primarily a system based on D. The linking of search and rescue authorities ashore with shipping in the immediate vicinity of a ship in distress or in need of assistance. 12B5. What is the responsibility of vessels under GMDSS? C. Every ship is able to perform those communications functions that are essential for the safety of the ship itself and of other ships. 12B6. GMDSS is required for which of the following? B. Soulless convention ships of 300 gross tonnage or more. 13C1. What is the purpose of INT-USA control settings on a VHF? C. To change certain international duplex channel assignments to simplex in the U.S. for VTS and other purposes. 13C2. VHF ship station transmitters must have the capability of reducing carrier power to A. 1 watt. 13C3. The dual watch function is used to D. Listen on any selected channel while periodically monitoring channel 16. 13C4. Which of the following statements best describes the correct settings for manual adjustment of squelch control? A. Adjust squelch control to the minimum level necessary to barely suppress any background noise. 13C5. The scan function is used to D. Sequentially scan all or selected channels. 13C6. Why must all VHF distress, urgency, and safety communications, as well as VTS traffic calls, be performed in simplex operating mode? B. To ensure that vessels not directly participating in the communications can hear both sides of the radio exchange. 14C1. What channel must VHF FM equipped vessels monitor at all times when the vessel is at sea? That's B. Channel 16. 14C2. What is the aircraft frequency and emission used for distress communications? That's D. 121.500 megahertz, and the mode is A3E. 14C3. Which VHF channel is used only for digital selective calling? That's A. Channel 70. 14C4. Which channel is utilized for the required bridge-to-bridge watch? C. VHF FM on channel 13 in most areas of the continental United States. 14C5. Which channel is most likely to be used for routine ship-to-ship voice traffic? B. Channel 8. 14C6. Which channel would you use to place a call to shore telephone? C. 28. Channel 28. 15C1. Which mode could be selected to receive vessel traffic lists from high sea shore stations? That's D. SSB and FEC. 15C2. Why must all MF, HF, distress, urgency, and safety communications take place solely on the 6 assigned frequencies and in the simplex operating mode? B. Answers A and C are both correct. So A says for non-GMDSS ships to maximize the chance for other vessels to receive those communications, and C says for GMDSS or DSC equipped ships to maximize the chances for other vessels to receive those communications following the transmissions of a DSC call of the correct priority. 15C3. To set up the MF-HF transceiver for a voice call to a coast station, the operator must C. Select J3E mode for proper voice operations. 15C4. MF-HF transceiver power levels should be set to A. The lowest power necessary for effective communications. 15C5. To set up the MF-HF transceiver for a telex call to a coast station, the operator must, that's B, select F1B mode or J2B mode, depending on the equipment manufacturer. 15C6. What is the purpose of receiver incremental tuning or clarifier control? A. It acts as a fine-tune control on the receive frequency. 16C1. What is the frequency? On what frequency would a vessel normally call another ship station when using radio telephony emissions? That's B. On 2182 kilohertz or channel 16, unless the station knows that the called vessel maintains simultaneous watch on another intership frequency. 16C2. What is the MF radio telephony calling and distress frequency? C. 2182 kilohertz. 16C3. For general communications purposes, paired frequencies are D. Normally used with public coast stations. 16C4. What emission must be used when operating on the MF distress and calling voice frequency? That's A. J3E, single sideband telephony. 16C5. Which of the following defines high frequency ITU channel 1212? And that's C, the 12th channel in the 12 megahertz band. 16C6. For general communications purposes, simplex communications are both A and C. So normally used between ship stations and private coast stations, and normally used between ship stations. 17C1, what is the proper procedure for testing a radio telephone installation? B. Transmit the station's call sign followed by the word test on the frequency being used for the test. 17C2, when testing is conducted on 2182 kHz or channel 16, testing should not continue more than blank in any 5-minute period. Answer is D, 10 seconds. 17C3, under GMDSS, a compulsory VHF/DSC radio telephone installation must be tested at what minimum intervals at C? And that's A, daily. 17C4, what is the best way to test an MF, HF, NBDP system is? D, initiate an ARQ call to a coast station and wait for the automatic exchange of answerbacks. 17C5, the best way to test Inmarsat C terminal is? Compose and send a brief message to your own Inmarsat C terminal. 17C6, when may you test a radio telephone transmitter on the air? At any time except during silence periods as necessary to assure proper operation. 18C1, under normal circumstances, what do you do if the transmitter aboard your ship is operating off frequency, overmodulating, or distorting? C, stop transmitting. 18C2, what would be an indication of proper operation of an SSB transmitter rated at 60 watts PEP output? That's B, in SciTour communications, the power meter can be seen fluctuating regularly from 0 to the 60 watt relative output reading. 18C3, if the ship radio transmitter signal becomes distorted, C, cease operations. 18C4, what would be an indication of a malfunction of a GMDSS station with a 24-volt DC battery system? A constant 30-volt reading on the GMDSS console voltmeter. 18C5, your antenna tuner becomes totally inoperative. What would you do to obtain operation on both 8 MHz and 22 MHz frequency bands? D, bypass the antenna tuner. Use a straight whip or wire antenna approximately 30 feet long. 18C6, which of the following conditions would be a symptom of malfunction in 2182 kHz telephone systems that must be reported to the master, then logged appropriately? No indication of power output when speaking into the microphone. With that, I'm going to go ahead and end this first video. We'll return later with 19 Delta 1 and continue on for the rest of Element 1. Thanks for joining us, and I hope you appreciate the GROL slides.